Hi, my name is Josh Rickey. I'm a 2013 graduate of the ODU Nurse Anesthesia program, and here's a story about one of the more unsafe and uncomfortable days I ever had in anesthesia school. My first day at this out-of-town, urban hospital setting, went around for a couple hours first thing in the morning, trying to chase down paperwork and get badge, give people my documentation and all that sort of thing. A group of us all got brought back to the operating room, and most everybody I was with was getting paired up with other students that were familiar with the system. Most everybody else was going off to another operating room with somebody who was going to kind of orient them. By the time they got around to pairing me up, there really wasn't another student around, so they just told me, just go to OR 4, Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith was in there. Go say hi to Dr. Smith and he'll get you going. I go off to operating room 4, introduce myself. Dr. Smith says, "Oh, okay, it's your first day?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." Have you ever used this anesthesia machine before? It was like the ACES machines that had the cassette vaporizers. So I had never seen that yet. And I was like, "No, sir, I have not seen that." He's like, have you seen our paperwork? No, I haven't seen the paperwork. Did they take you to pharmacy and get you a narcotics bag? No, they haven't done any of that yet. It's like, oh, okay, well, it should be fine. This ENT case, they got probably about 20 or 30 minutes left. He was a difficult intubation, so I'm just gonna go out and you just let me know. Just call me if you need anything. And then he just left. So I'm in the OR trying to assimilate the situation I was in, and they're closing on this patient, like a complex closure. I'm looking at the machine, hitting buttons, trying to figure out how to change vent settings and turn the gas up and down. I look, there's like no drugs drawn up anywhere. There's really no airway, anything anywhere. The stack of papers like half filled out, barely any charting out. So I'm like looking at all of this, trying to figure out where drugs were. The residents at some point told me, 5 minutes or something like that. The patient had like well over 2 end-tidal sevoflurane at the time. So I started just turning it down a little bit, starting to prepare for emergence at least. At some point I realized I don't even know how to call out for the anesthesiologist that I was with. There's a phone on the back wall, but it was like a paging system. Everyone carried beepers or something like that. I didn't even know his beeper number. He didn't even give me the number. So I have nothing, nothing prepared, no access to anything, no orientation of any kind, except, this difficult intubation is close to emergence. Call me when you need me. I finally got the circulator to go ahead and just page him overhead. That was the only way I knew how to get a hold of him, but really they only use the overhead page for emergencies. So he comes like flying back in the door and then notices that I've done some minor modifications of his settings, and he starts freaking out because I paged him overhead and that I started emerging the patient without letting him know. And so he's yelling at me, and and the residents are like looking over, and it's causing this huge scene, and I was just apologizing all over myself. It was very uncomfortable. We emerged the patient together, everything was fine. So we get through to the end of the day. Dr. Smith says, okay, nice job, that's it for this room today. So he leaves. So I go back to the central OR station, find the person in charge, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do next, and the anesthesiologist is like, and then we get a page overhead calling anesthesia stat to room 4. Realize that there was another case in that room, and so he grabs another anesthesiologist that's just sort of walking by and said, "Hey, here, this is Josh, go down to room 4 and figure out what they need." We walk in the room and there's a patient on the table, everyone's scrubbed in, like sitting there with their arms crossed. There's a patient on the table that we don't know anything about, and there's some case that we were unaware of that got added on to the schedule. And I still don't even have pharmacy access, so the anesthesiologist is like, "Oh, you don't even have drugs to even do this case." So he leaves. I'm trying to set the room up from scratch. There's no circuit on the machine, there's no suction of any kind, nothing drawn up, no airway. So I'm trying to get stuff ready while I'm asking this patient just the simple questions of history and trying to figure out what in the world's going on. But no preparation whatsoever. Flying by the seat of the pants, anesthesia at its best. That first day, it was a constant barrage of just being thrown into situations and procedures that you're wholly unprepared for, having to be very spontaneous with almost no orientation at all. Yeah, that was a very memorable first day at that hospital. Not my favorite time.